Welcome to the Life Jacket Podcast. This podcast is meant to motivate you guys, to encourage you guys to get through the waves of life. I'm blessed. I have my co-host AJ. A little bit about me. I'm in the military. I have 2 degrees, business management, finance, real estate agent, do investments as well. And so this podcast is primarily about mindset. It's about getting to where you want to be in life. It's getting you through life. But that's why I'm here doing this. And then here's my co-host AJ.
What's going on, y'all? My name is AJ Sababu. Currently, I'm a project manager in Baltimore at a hospital. I'm also a certified life coach. I help individuals with insecurities, low self-esteem, low self-confidence, particularly from bullying. And so I want to just thank you guys, one, for taking the time out and listening to us. And like my co-host Bless was saying, one of the reasons why we want to do this podcast is that we personally believe that everybody has a story and you really don't know what people are going through in life. And we're going to talk a lot about topics like self-esteem, self-confidence, bullying, and I'll dive into some a little bit later. But just want to thank you guys again for taking the time out to listen to us, and I'll kick it back over to Bless.
All right. So the way we're going to start each and every episode is with the win for the week, because we want to look at everything positive. We want to celebrate the small wins, the big wins. But if you start off with a win of the week, it gets you going that you can believe that there's more and more to come. So AJ, what's your win of the week?
My win for the week is right now, starting this podcast.
Yes,
this is so dope. Like, y'all have no idea the topics we're going to bring you guys. And even me and Bless, when we started talking about this, like, we're like, yeah, we should start a podcast. And we both like, all right, let's do it. We came up with the name. We came up with different episodes and what we wanted to talk about. And we made it happen. I know a lot of times, people be bullshitting about what they want to do, or some people, like, they'll shoot one podcast episode and be done. But nah, like, we got a list of episodes. So be on the lookout for us. And so that's a win for me for the week. How about you?
Absolutely. So my win for the week is my birthday. That happened on, Monday, February 26th. And so I just turned 32. And it's a win because there's a lot of people that never made it to 32. And it's also a win because where I am in life, a lot of people may not be here at this age of 32 and still might be trying to figure things out, which we all should be. But at the same time, it's just nice to be like, hey, I have my family, have my friends, have my loved ones, all that stuff at the age of 32 and still happy, healthy, and motivating and trying to be better. So for me, that was definitely a big win. And I'm glad I was able to celebrate that. So let's get on to pretty much the life jacket.
Mm-hmm. So pretty much for the life jacket, like I stated earlier, a lot of people in life are just going through life and are dealing with a lot of issues and a lot of problems. And not just that, but you don't know where somebody got to for like where they first came from. So a lot of people, like, you may see them where they're at now, but they struggled or went through a lot of different adversities, a lot of different ways to get there. And so, like I was saying earlier, we're going to talk about numerous topics: low self-esteem, low self-confidence, negative self-talk, a negative mindset, people pleasing, overthinking, anxiety, emotional health, just a lot of various topics that we really don't see a lot of people really talking about. And so these topics are what you may be going through, and it low-key may be drowning you a little bit. And you think it's just you and you're just going through it, but you're not. And so we want this podcast to be very open and vulnerable. So we want to just talk about what people are really going through. How does it really make you feel? How did you overcome it? And how can you excel and push through? And so I'm really excited to dive into this stuff and really talk about it, because we don't see the space where a lot of people are talking about this, and let alone, like, there's so many people that are going through stuff and you just don't know their story and then to how they got there. So we're excited to talk about that. How about you? What are you looking forward to?
So the life jacket has 3 of our main reasons, right? So one of the reasons is for you guys, have our audience to hold on to something when these waves of life start to get rough, to keep you guys afloat, to keep you seeing something that says, hey, I can do it. Hey, I can continue to push forward. Another reason is for openness and vulnerability. And the reason being is because you might not know what waves are drowning you. You might not be open to say, wow, I keep doing this. This is why I'm here. This is the environment I'm in. And this is why this keeps happening over and over and over again. And so for us, we're going to be open and vulnerable as much as possible when we have guests they're going to come on here and be open and vulnerable as much as possible, because you have to dive deep inside to actually see where these waves are coming from. And the last thing is just for encouragement, right? So we want to encourage you guys. We want to motivate you guys, and to keep having that mindset of keep pushing forward. Because yes, okay, now you're afloat above those waves, but you don't want to stay there. You want to keep going through, get out of these waves. And so the mindset and the way you take your approach on life and the way you look at things, whether it's your habits, whether it's just your everyday environment, this stuff can get you through these rough waves. And so that's why we really tied into actually having the life jacket. It's a literal metaphor. Like, we are your guys' life jacket, and we want to be your guys' life jacket. So this way life won't be as hard, because if you're deep in water, you have a life jacket on, you don't have to worry about paddling and kicking. You know, you have us to be able to help and build you up.
And to go off what Bless said, a lot of these issues too, you know, if you don't address them if you're listening right now, you're in high school, like if you don't address the issues you're going through, it will creep up in your adulthood. Is gonna creep up, and you have to really start addressing issues. A lot of people are addressing issues now, which is great, but the earlier you can address issues, even if you're as an adult, you're in your 30s, if you don't address something, it'll just keep creeping up. It'll creep up in friendships, it'll creep up in relationships. And so you have to really take on that mindset of, I've got to really take this on, or it's just going to keep bothering me, and I'm never going to really figure out like why things are happening until you really address the core issues and what's going on. And to kind of go off what Bless is saying about why we're calling this the life jacket. And so, like he was saying, the life jacket it's a floatable device. And so it can really save your life in an emergency in life. Say a boat crashes, you have the life jacket. It keeps you afloat, like, for an emergency. And I think a lot of times people are just going through life with the life jacket. They're just alive. Like, that self-esteem is killing you every day. Your low self-confidence, that negative self-talk that you do to yourself, your anxiety. And so you're alive, like you're there, but you're kind of just existing. And so what we want the life jacket to be is eventually you get to a point where you can take the life jacket on, you can start swimming, or you can take the life jacket off and go through life and be able to keep going and really become the person that you're supposed to be. Because really, if there's something bothering you, you're just a shell of yourself. But once you really address that core issue, you'll really become that person that you're really supposed to be.
Absolutely. So I got a question, right? So
Yeah.
we got the life jacket, we got the podcast, so we're going. And so I'm sure you guys want to know what makes us appropriate to even talk about this. And so that's why I want to talk to you, and I want to ask you, like, in your life, how do you relate your life to the life jacket, or where did you find to put on the life jacket? Tell me a little bit about that scenario.
Right. So, you know, growing up, I was bullied a lot. I went through a lot of bullying, which led to low self-confidence and low self-esteem, which is why I eventually became a life coach in that area. And so I realized as I grew up how much being bullied like affected my low self-confidence, my self-esteem. It affected the way I played sports. It affected the way like I was like social. I was really shy. I wasn't confident really in doing anything, playing sports, trying any new activities, even trying to holler at a chick. I would be like really shy. So I was just like, why am I going through this? And so, you know, as I became older and I went through college, eventually like I got out of my shell and I became this social butterfly. I became this person I got very confident. Shout out to the gym. And then I really also, became a real people person. And if you knew me growing up, like I was very awkward. I was really shy. I didn't really say too much. And it wasn't because I wanted to be this way. Like my self-esteem was just crushed at a younger age. And I just know that if it wasn't for like me going to college and like just growing up, like I wouldn't be this person that I was. And also like, you shouldn't have to go through it alone. I went through it alone, but thankfully, you know, thank God I was able to overcome. But there's a lot of people who don't overcome it. You're stuck in yourself and like you're still this person that was still crushed by, you know, these insecurities and what you went through, and you haven't been able to overcome this. And so we really want to make this podcast specifically so that if you're watching this and you're struggling and you're not this person that you really want to be in life, that you can be this person, and that there are people out here that went through it and they overcame it and they're flourishing. And so that's one of the main reasons why I want to drop this podcast, because I know there's people out there that really struggle with these things, and you don't really have anybody to talk to. You might not have the most supportive family or friends, and you know, like, man, deep down inside, I'm really this cool guy or this cool chick, but right now I'm just too scared to even like try different things. And so, you know, this is really why we made this podcast, for people like you, so that, you know, this is you know, you can be resilient, you can be adventurous, you can be confident in yourself. And so I went a little bit of a rant because I'm really passionate about this, but that's the reason why we made the podcast. So I'll kick it back to you.
So I got a little question for you, because I've known you pretty much
like 5 years old, like 4 or 5 years old. Like, we've been rocking since, oh my God, so you're kids.
So, yeah, like we've known each other for a long time.
Right.
I'll definitely say your life has definitely kind of like started from the bottom. Now we hear type of vibe.
Listen, come on now. If you know, you know.
So
if you know, you know. Like, I'm not playing.
So I'm curious, like, where do you think throughout maybe your high school, college, or after post grad school, where was that like kind of like switch, or where do you think you finally like started to adapt into the person you are? And on the caveat on that, like, how did you kind of figure out who the person that you are?
I would say that. So I pledged in college. You know, I'm a Kappa. Shout out to the Noops. And I originally I did it because I really wanted to do it, and I was they seem cool. They real laid back, because I was a really laid back, cool guy. And you know, I went through the process. I crossed, and then after that, I just got this insane boost of confidence. I started doing step shows. I started strolling in parties. You know, like, and I guess I became more popular by default because the Kappas were really popular, and my line brothers were really popular too. I was the quiet one. So they kind of, you know, come out. And that was probably my biggest blessing, like actually pledging and becoming myself. And it was from that experience, like, I was able to like become a McNair scholar, and like I was doing step shows in front of hundreds of people. And then I got really confident in public speaking when I would do research, and that transition to grad school. I did research there, I did presentations, and like I became a real social butterfly out of nowhere. But the thing is, like, even when I was getting bullied a lot and I was really, really shy, people always tell me like, "Oh, you're really funny. You're really funny. Like, yo, like, you know, just try to, you know, just be more of yourself." And I'd be like, yeah, I'm trying, but like this shit got hard. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, like it was crazy. I remember I would try to like high school. I would try to like be cool and like wear some, like, dress up, like wear sneakers and stuff. And like I remember I had a pair of Jordans I would wear, and I wore them and I would still get flamed up. I'm like, all right, you know, fuck it. Like, it's just bad, bro. I remember like shout out to my mom. Like, it was a point like in like middle school, like early high school, like she would like, I didn't care what I wore. Like, I would just wear a bunch of bullshit. Like, I just didn't care about, like, I didn't care about my appearance. I didn't care about how I dressed. And again, that comes from like the bullying, that comes from like the low self-confidence. Like, I just did not care at all. And so that it all just stems, and like it, like you said, it creeps up in your adult, and eventually I was able to overcome it. But like, I think college is where I really got that confidence, and then I became this social butterfly, and I became this person that I am now, which is like great. Like, I look back at my life, I was like, damn, like I really came a long way. And like people tell me all the time, like they'll be like, yo, like you really changed a lot. And I'm like, no, I ain't changed. This is just the person I was supposed to be. Life was just, it was life. And so, so it's been great. And I mean, just kick it to you, like, you know, same questions for you. Like, you know, tell me a little about your story, and, you know, kind of what made you want to get into the space as well.
So that's a good question, because my story is actually the opposite of yours.
Yeah. He was that nigga, like, for real. Like, he got all the chicks. I'm like, damn, like, I ain't no chick looking at me. I was low key hating on the low, but like, and like me, we were cool growing up, but like as we got older, we got a lot closer. But like growing up, I was like, yo, like he get all the chicks. Like, we would go to private school, wear the same outfits, same shoes. I'm like, yo, like I'm ass clearly, because like this just ain't working. Like he was eating, but go ahead, I'll let you keep rocking.
That's kind of how it was. And so like for me, it was kind of like I had this expectation to be a certain thing that I actually wasn't. And so I think like naturally it was like, oh, hey, I play basketball, I'm kind of good at it. Oh, I play soccer, I'm kind of good at it. Run track, kind of good at it. And for me, it was like, that's how I was like coasting through life. So when we talk about the life jacket and like just coasting through them waves, that's where I was at. Like I wasn't at a point where like I was down or like my life was so terrible, but it was like my 80% was above average in my head, to where it was like, well, I can just be 80% or I can half-ass this and everything is going to be fine.
Right.
And so it took me, you know, to actually reevaluate myself, to be like, wow, I could do a lot more. I need to do a lot more because I have the potential. People are saying I can do a lot more. Parents, loved ones, and they're saying, oh, do a lot more, do a lot more. And so actually looking at myself and be like, wow, man, this life jacket that I have on, I've been all having this life jacket and coasting through life this whole time. Let me actually start swimming through these waves. Like, let me start tackling this stuff. Let me do more. Like, you know, I ended up joining the military to pay for school, honestly, but then end up getting a career out of it and getting to a point where I'm happy and content. But then it's like, I'm not going to stop there because that's still that same coasting. Then I decided to go into real estate, investments, stocks, all of that stuff. And as you know, we out here, we trying to build an empire.
Facts.
And so doing that more aspect is always something that I feel like you guys as viewers, you guys might be in the same area. You might be doing all right. You might be not living from paycheck to paycheck, but doing just a little bit more. And so if you dive deep into who you are and what you actually want out of life, and you listen to us, you know what I mean? Then, you know, we might be able to give some positive suggestions, some positive reinforcements to be more than you actually be, and actually hit that self-actualization that you're meant to be. Because honestly, we only got one life, right? So you gotta keep going. And so that's pretty much for my story. It wasn't like a tragedy. It was just like, hey, I'm naturally good enough for people not to pick on me, for people not to like judge me or whatever the case may be. But it's like they kind of actually put a cap on where I was supposed to be at. And so I wasn't ever challenged because things became easy. No one ever pushed me further because things seemed like I already had it under control. And then that's where that vulnerability comes into place. Like, yo, even though that person said you did a good job, you knew you could have done better. Even though you got an 85 or a 90 on the test, you knew you could have got 100, but you was bullshitting. So that's for me. That's kind of why I think we're at two different levels of what our past was. And even though we started off at that, we're like, you know, we're doing our stuff now. Like we here. So at the end of the day, I'm talking maybe from a different aspect of people that might be in the same shoes that I've been in, and you're talking from an aspect of where maybe things weren't as natural, but you ended up coming out of your shell. And so that way we're talking to a broad, you know, audience in that regards.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And like jokingly, but seriously, like when I mean the opposite, like Bless was nice at basketball. I was ass. Like Bless got all the chicks. I ain't getting none. Bless was nice as basketball, best player on the team. I was like last person picked up. All that stuff for real. Like it's so crazy. Like we were really like polar opposites, but like it just goes to show you like you can, like he was saying, like he felt like you felt like you were just coasting, but like, and that happens. A lot of people like people get very comfortable, like, and can just coast through life. Like you said, like he was coasting along. I'm drowning. Like I need help. Like somebody go down here and get this guy. Like it was like complete opposites, but it just goes to show you, yo, you just can't stay comfortable. And you never know how paths are gonna align. Like I would have never thought 20 something years from now, like me and him would be doing a podcast together.
Facts.
But nah, we're really looking forward to this. And like you said, like being vulnerable, being open, like that's something I struggle with. And again, like, and that has crept up in my adulthood. Like, oh my God, it is hard as hell for me to open up. So it's just stuff like that. Like we don't realize that if we don't address these topics at a younger age and we just, you know, oh, I'm just going to keep going through it and just stay the same. Like, nah, it's going to keep coming up. You'll ruin friendships, you'll ruin relationships, all those kind of things. And so, yeah, like I said, we're really excited to be here. And I think, with that, we'll both do we'll do a takeaway. One takeaway we wanted to give you guys for the week. Before we head on out, is there anything that you want to talk about, or are we cool?
Nah, we cool.
We cool. So I guess like my biggest takeaway for the week is, anytime you're trying to do anything positive in life, it's going to take time. Like this podcast, this is not a podcast. We're not gonna be talking about 50-50 dating or going to Cheesecake Factory. Like there's plenty of other podcasts like that. Like we're talking about some real life shit. And so like, we want this to be positive, but yet open, but yet be vulnerable. We want to do all of that. And so we really want you guys to come along with us. Check us out. Like you said, like this is something that we know, like we know this is gonna blow up. Like we know, like we're gonna help so many people. And like if you're the person that's deep down you're struggling with this stuff and you see this podcast, like it's really for you. And so that's my biggest takeaway for the week. How about you?
Absolutely. And my biggest takeaway for the week is just celebrate the small wins and look back at your life. Look at where you came from. Like AJ talked about, like him being bullied. He wasn't getting girls. No one was really vibing with him. And so now it's a complete 180. Right. But he's here now and he's doing this because he's viewed where his life was prior to this. And so my biggest takeaway is like, live in the moment right now and look back and be like, where was I doing a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago? Celebrate that small win and then just keep moving forward. That's my biggest takeaway. And so I'm so glad that you guys came to view the life jacket. But one thing we want you guys to do, I want you to like, subscribe, share, comment, especially if you know somebody is in need to see this stuff, if you're in need to see this stuff. And we just cannot wait for the next episode. Peace.
And I'm gonna be watching them likes and subscribes. Don't think I'm playing. If I can look at the views, all you gotta do is subscribe and like. It takes like 3 seconds, I promise you. And I'm gonna find out who's viewing it. I'm gonna find that algorithm and be like, yo, I saw you reviewing my podcast. Why you ain't wanna like or share it and all that? But all right, Joe, we'll holla at y'all.
Peace.
Cut.